Hello, good evening. This is U.S. Immigration Attorney Sharifa Tharpe. I have a great topic for you today, and it is the top 20 ways that I can think of to get your green card. There are more ways, but I'm gonna tell you the top 20 ways that I can think of in this time that I have that you can where you can get a green card. Some of them will allow you to apply for your own green card. Some of them allow you to apply through family. Some of them allow you to apply through employment. So let's get started, and let's get started with employment. So getting a green card through employment is really going to come down to the employer's needs and your qualifications. So that's why employment, with the ways to get a green card through employment is broken down into other smaller categories. So for instance, you have the EB1, which can be broken down into three categories. So one is the extraordinary. So if you're in academics, the other is if you have extraordinary ability, and also if you are working as an international manager for a U.S. company. Then, for example, if you have the L1, then in that case, after some time of being in the U.S. on the L1, that company could actually sponsor you to get permanent residence. So that's EB1, that's for priority workers. Then you have EB2. So EB2, and then let me go back to the EB1 category for employment based. For this category, if you have extraordinary ability, you show extraordinary ability, and what that means exactly is if you are at the top of your field, you've done extraordinary things in your career, you've had great achievements, you're known internationally or nationally, you can show awards for it, but keep in mind awards aren't necessarily it's not the absolute requirement. There are actually 10 criteria. If you can show 3 out of the 10, you could have a shot at getting the extraordinary ability permanent residence. So for example, if you're in academia and you have contributed greatly to your area, your field, if you're a scientist, if you're a researcher, you've done great research, you've published articles, and those articles have been cited by other well-respected publications, then believe it or not, that could actually be a basis to get your green card because it is one criteria to show that it is one criterion to show that you have achieved great things, you've contributed greatly to your field. So keep in mind extraordinary, and when you can show extraordinary ability, you can apply on your own. You don't have to have an employer sponsor you. So that is one. Now EB2, that is the exceptional ability. It also covers national interest. That also allows you to apply on your own. In this category, you'll need to show an advanced degree, or if you don't have an advanced degree like a master's degree or a PhD, you do have to show that you have a bachelor's and you have at least 5 years of solid experience in your area. Now, if this area has to be in the arts, in education, or the business. So if you are in this area, then you could possibly also get your own green card through the national interest waiver. Also, you don't necessarily have to have an advanced degree if you can show exceptional ability. So for example, this category is open to entrepreneurs. So you're here, you're running a successful business, you have contributed greatly to an industry in your field. Doesn't matter, you are an entrepreneur, you don't necessarily have to have your degree, but you do have to back it up with documentary evidence. Then there's the EB3. So this is the last category, and it covers professionals, skilled workers, as well as other workers. The other workers are workers who don't necessarily have any particular skills, but they're needed to work for the employer on a permanent basis. With these, you will need the employer to sponsor you and go through the labor certification process. So that's something to keep in mind. So right here, just here alone, I talked about, so let's see. So I talked about eight ways to get your green card, because there are 2 to 3 categories under each EB1, EB2, EB3. So they're broken down into different categories. That's where you should schedule a consultation to see if you could qualify under one of those categories. And remember, it's going to come down to your achievements, your qualifications, the needs of the employer, if you need an employer. Thank you for the love. I appreciate it. Now, as I'm talking, go ahead, put your questions in the comments, because I'm getting to your comments next, your questions next. But what I do want to cover, I want to cover it quickly because it's a lot of ground to cover. That is the top 20 ways that I can think where you can get your green card, right? I just covered 8, believe it or not, very quickly. So I just covered those very, very quickly. If you're interested in pursuing your green card through employment, the next thing you should do is schedule that consultation. Now, the next is family. So through and also, see, this is one I wasn't going to mention, but the religious worker can also be sponsored. So they can get a visa through their employer, and then the employer can also sponsor them through the church. So the religious organization can then sponsor them. So that's actually 9 ways that I mentioned. Now let's go on to family. So with the family, there are only specific relatives who can sponsor you. No friends, no cousins, no aunts, no grandparents, not directly anyway. But here's how it works. If you have a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, a spouse, and that's the fastest, a parent, son or daughter, citizen son or daughter who is 21 and up, and keep in mind, they have to be 21 and up. Children, if you have anybody who's under 21, it's not going to count. Once they turn 21, they can sponsor you. So if you have also a U.S. citizen sibling, then they could sponsor you. But keep in mind that the length of time that it would take to sponsor you is going to vary. I'll tell you the fastest ways. If you're the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, immediate relatives of U.S. citizens means you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen, you're the parent of a U.S. citizen who's 21 and up, you're the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen who is under 21, and unmarried. You are the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen in this case, and right now that's the fastest. So I often prepare my clients for an 18-month, so a year and a half, to a 2-year process, but it could be less, could even be more. So it depends on each case and how complex each case is. But that's going to be the fastest way. Keep in mind, if you are within this category also and you're here, you may be here without status, you may have overstayed your visa. If you overstayed your visa, you may qualify to adjust status. If you came across the border without permission though, you are going to have to make sure that you follow a different path, and that's unless you qualify for what's called VAWA. So that is another way to get permanent residence. So I just listed 3 of those ways through different family members. So your U.S. citizen spouse, your U.S. citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, or your U.S. citizen parent if you're under 21 and unmarried. Then if you don't fall within these categories, there are other ways to get permanent residence. If you are the son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, you're 21 or over and you're unmarried, that's one category. If you are the son or daughter of a permanent resident, so you're under 21, you're unmarried, that's one way. If you're the spouse of a permanent resident, that's one way. That's also one of the faster ways too. If you're under 21, son and daughter of a permanent resident, or you're the spouse of a permanent resident, then you could still have a faster process, but that's right now. That can always change. Then if you are the son or daughter of a permanent resident, 21 and over and unmarried, that's another way. If you're the married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, that's another way. Now, for these categories, for if you're 21 and over and you have children, your children who are under 21 and unmarried can go along on the same application as you. If you're the married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, your spouse and children can come along with you. And if you are the sibling, so the other way is if you are a sibling of a U.S. Citizen, and that U.S. citizen is 21 and over, then that is one way also. But keep in mind that through the sibling, if you're 21 and over, being sponsored by a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident parent, it's taking longer. It doesn't take the 18 to 24 months. It goes for about 5 to 7 years right now. If you're the sibling of a U.S. citizen, it's taking at minimum 14 years. For example, if you're in Mexico, it's taking about 14 years. If you are the married son or daughter of a U.S. citizen, it's taking 12 years. Hi there, Patrice on YouTube. It's nice to see you. So the processing times will vary. And also the way you're going to go about your process is going to depend on how, where you are, what is your current immigration status, and which category do you fall in here. So that's family in a nutshell. There is another way. So if you have these family members, but they are not, they don't want to apply for you and they're mistreating you, that could be VAWA. So that's another way. So keep that one in mind. Then I'm going to move on to humanitarian. Now, humanitarian means that you may be in distress. In the U.S., you may have been used by your employer, used and abused by your employer, used and abused by someone here in the country. And that could very well be a T visa, T status for trafficking victims. If you get the T status, then you can go on to get permanent residence after 3 of the 4 years that you're granted your work permit and your permission to be here. If you've been the victim of certain qualifying crimes, now the types of crimes, they have to result in your physical or mental abuse. So it could be a number of crimes. But here are some examples. If you have been victimized, if you've been the victim of domestic violence, assault, stalking, these are examples of crimes that qualify you to get the U status. The U status is taking an extremely long time to get. It's taking 10 years, but the great news is that you get a work permit while you wait to get the U status. Another piece of good news is once you get the U status, you have a path to permanent residence after 3 of the 4 years. And your children get to get that as well. So keep that one in mind. Then there's asylum. If you are granted asylum after 1 year of having asylum, then you can apply for permanent residence. To get asylum, you do have to show that you have a credible fear of persecution in your country. What that means is that you based on your identity, based on the social group that you identify with. It could be based on your race. It could be based on your ethnicity. It could be based on your religion. It could be gender-based, targeted against your gender in some way. For example, domestic violence in your country. Then you could qualify for asylum possibly. Then so asylum, the T, the U. Unfortunately, TPS does not lead directly to the green card. There have been questions about, or there have been proposals to try to get a path to permanent residence and then citizenship for those who are on TPS, but nothing yet. Hi there, Kissy. It's always nice to see you. I hope you're doing well. Then there is investment, right? So it's called the Eb5 Investment Visa. and or permanent residence. You can do adjustment of status, but you do have to qualify. That means you're staying in the U.S. Now, with the EB5, if you have a minimum of $500,000 to invest, and that has to come from a legal source, you could get a shot at getting your green card right after submitting the applications. So that in a nutshell those are I think the 20, maybe even the 21 types of ways you can get permanent residence in the United States. As you can see, so many different ways. That's why it's important for you to schedule an appointment. Let us evaluate your situation and then determine whether you could qualify, because each type of qualification is going to come with different facts. So your circumstances have to fit within the criteria of that category to get permanent resident. So schedule the consultation. You're serious about getting permanent resident, get on it. Give the office a call. Go to the link in the profile. It's going to take you to the website. You can go to the About page on YouTube, or you can go to the link in the profile on TikTok. It's going to take you to the website, or it's going to take you to options where you can quickly get in touch. The scheduling coordinators will be happy to schedule your appointment. So I hope that I can hear from you, speak with you in a consultation. Thanks so much for the love, Kissy. And good luck on the bar. So you're prepping for the bar now. I know that's all consuming. So just good luck. Make sure you get your rest and just take little at a time. It gets easier as you get more prepared. It's gonna feel a little easier, not less nerve-wracking, but you're gonna start getting you're going to be amazed at how much you know at the end of it all. So good luck with that, and thanks for stopping by, and thanks for the love. And now I'm going to answer questions. Thanks for your patience. Now I'm going to blow through your questions. So let's see what you have here. So how much is the citizenship fee? $725. And that's for the application and the biometrics. For permanent resident, spouse, sponsor, how does it, I think that's how long does it take to bring their partner to the US? I say prepare 18 to 24 months. Get on it. Get legal advice and then get on it very quickly, because there is no wait list right now, but that can always change, right? Because spouses of permanent residents, they had different processing times, but now there's no wait list. And so it's not much longer than being married to a US citizen. But keep in mind, I don't know what your situation is. I'm not your attorney. I'm not providing personalized legal advice. And so you should schedule an appointment for us to talk about your situation and then determine what course of action is best. Is it best for your spouse to become a citizen first? Are you here in the US? Are you out of status? Do you have status? These are the questions I'll have to address in the consultation. My case status still says under review. It's been more than 120 days. Oh my gosh, that's the story of my life. That's exactly right. So even though it says under review, it does not mean that the officer is sitting there and looking at it. It means that it's kind of in queue to be reviewed. So that can happen. You can see that for a year. I've had some cases they've been sitting there for a year under review before something is done about it. So just hang tight, keep an eye on your case. So Amrita, so you're from Guyana. I don't see the other part though. U visa, I apply, work permit, 9:30. How long is the wait? So they're backlogged on work permits right now. So you could see anywhere from 4 months. Obviously the 4 months they've passed for you, but I've seen as long as a year. My fiance and I are going to get married in 2 months. Congratulations. Can I work remotely for now? Now, that is a complex question, right? Because working remotely in the United States, who is the company? Who's your employer? Is it a U.S. company? Who are you working for? Is it for a foreign employer? Are you required to go in person in the office in the U.S.? So that is complex. I wouldn't be able to tell you that. That is where you need to get good legal advice to make sure you don't run afoul of any violations here. My case status still says under review. It's been more than 120 days, and you're not alone with that. But just keep an eye on your case. My mom, after 120 days of the interview, I called USCIS before, told me RFE, no decision notice. So it sounds like there's no decision notice after 120 days. So you just have to get in touch with them. There are tools so that I use for my clients, but I only use these tools for my clients. I don't usually do it as an outside service. It's a part of my representation that if a case is over the processing time, then there are a number of tools. So case inquiry, there's maybe even to contact a congressperson, there's an ombudsman. And then there are more extreme, actions to take if it's severely backlogged. So, for example, lawsuits. All right, so let's see. So how long does it take to get an I-485 interview? It varies. It varies on your case. It varies on how complete your case is. And it varies on the field office, whether they have openings anytime soon. Are they backlogged? The shortest I've seen right now is 6 months to get the interview. And that's post-COVID, so that's pretty good. But you should be prepared for, it could be anywhere from a few months to even over a year. All right, so I took my biometrics last week for visa, VAWA. How long I have to wait for the work permit? I don't qualify for a green card. So if you if you have the VAWA, you have the status already. Right now, you're looking at anywhere from 4 months to 12 months. Unfortunately, it is taking a while, but I don't know if you already got VAWA and now you are applying for your permanent not your permanent residence, but your work permit, or if you're applying for VAWA. So if you are just applying for VAWA, you've just submitted your petition and you haven't filed an adjustment of status, then you're going to have to wait for your VAWA to be approved. VAWA is taking quite a while. Right now, we're seeing processing times that are going over 2 years, 2.5 years. So it could be a while. But so when you get that work permit, it's going to come down to how was this filed, what's filed, what do you qualify for. So if you need any assistance, you know where to find me. Go to the About, and you'll see the link to the website. You'll see all the ways to get in touch on the website. All right. So can I stay out with permanent green card more than a year? No. That's going to lead to problems for you. Some people may get away with it, but trust me, first of all, it can stop you from getting citizenship. Hands down, you'll be denied if you apply right after coming back to the country, and that's if they let you in. And the reason for this is after 1 year of being outside of the country, then you will, so 365 days of being outside of the United States means that your green card technically is not valid to come back. It's not a valid travel document. There is the assumption that you've abandoned your permanent residence. So you should not be staying outside of the United States for more than 6 months. So keep your trips short and sweet. It's not that you can't travel, but you need to keep your your trip short and sweet, and that now if you want to go out of the country for more than a year, you know what you should be doing. Apply for US citizenship. If you become a US citizen, then you can go and live anywhere you want in the world. They will never be able to take your citizenship away. So that is the solution here. Get your citizenship. All right. So I'm going to spend a little more time answering questions, and then I'm going to hop on over to Instagram. I'm the Immigration Attorney on Instagram, so you can always join me there. So let's see. Is the U.S. Embassy in Nairobi scheduling visa interviews for the family-based cases? So I would have to check Nairobi to see, because I haven't, every embassy is different. There are so many embassies around the world. So I would have to check to see what they're doing, but I have not seen any news that there are places that are not processing family-based. Now if you're talking about the priority date, you have to check the National Visa Bulletin. You have to look for your category to see what's going on. But there's nothing that says they have stopped. Any of the embassies around the world has stopped. And now with COVID, they shut down, they were closed, they had limited interviews all around the world. So and right now the COVID situation is different in different countries. So go to the website too. You may be able to see what they're doing right now with interviews. Any update on asylum cases? No updates on those right now. Between the O visa and the H-1B visa, which is easier and closer to get citizenship? So I think you mean permanent residence. It's going to come down to what do you qualify for? Do you qualify with the H-1B? There's always the lottery that you have to think about. With the O1, you have to show extraordinary ability. So it's going to come down to what are your qualifications, what requirements can you meet, and what are your goals? How long do you want to work for the employer? What are your goals in the United States? When you get marriage certificate, how long can you wait until you file a green card? Now, keep in mind, the marriage certificate is not the only piece of evidence that the application is going to need. That's what I need to caution you about. Don't underestimate the marriage-based process. I've seen so many great couples come to me, and unfortunately, they've run into problems in their process because they underestimated the process. They only gave a marriage certificate, and then the officer, when they review the application, their marriage doesn't look valid on paper. So don't underestimate it. However, if you need the marriage certificate as that last piece of evidence that you need to add, along with all the evidence to show that your marriage is real, then you can apply tomorrow. If you get your marriage certificate today, you have everything ready, you can apply tomorrow. There's no law that says you have to wait a certain amount of time. Gal95, you're welcome. Thank you. Can someone apply for a visiting visa while waiting for approval of I-130? I've seen that happen, but it's going to come down to how long is the I-130 going to take to be approved. For example, if it takes a very long time, it's going to take 14 years, then it could be possible to get the visitor's visa in the meantime. But you have to come really good with why you're to show the officer that you're going to return when you get to the U.S. Can I receive a visa for the U.S.? I wouldn't be able to tell you if you can do that, but you can always apply, and you'd have to make sure to meet the requirements. I have been on farm work program for 7 years. So unfortunately, going from the farm work program to and I don't know if you have the farm work here. I don't know if that's what you mean. That is a type of work program. But if you're talking about a visitor's visa, it may be possible, but I have to figure out what your circumstances are. Okay, so is there a deadline to apply for the green card after marriage? No deadlines. No deadlines at all. If you want to apply tomorrow, if you want to apply 10 years from now, that is a possibility. Can I migrate without family to sponsor me? It depends on your qualifications. Through employment, it may be possible. We've been waiting 16 months for I-130 update, only received receipt. That is that you're not alone on that. It's taking over a year to get updates. We've been waiting 16 months. Unfortunately, that is it, and it depends on the agency's processing times. You should check on that and then see if you can inquire as to why that is. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So you can go ahead and join me then at 4 p.m. Eastern time, or you can join me in a minute on Instagram. I'm the Immigration Attorney. Thanks so much for all the love and all the relevant questions. Now, if you want personalized legal advice, you can always go to the link in the profile or in the About page. Click on the link. It's going to take you to the website, and a scheduling coordinator will assist you there. So have a good evening in the meantime.